for joining us. Welcome again, all 23 of you, Sunny. And if I miss anyone, Sean, Kara, Job, welcome from one seminar to another seminar. Thank you so much, Nigel, and everybody. Yes, so the person is going to speak of his childhood, I believe, of your family, and how he has used it as a form of, as an opportunity towards healing. And he's also going to describe 5 stages of what grief is, according to him. Please give a big hand of applause to Prinsten.
Hi everyone, thanks Rihanna. So when Rihanna approached me to start with this talk, to share my story, I was there were a lot of things going through my mind about how am I going to present, because I have not as many stories as Rasati, but I have one main story, but there were a lot of lessons from this single story in my life. And I found a great difficulty in how to anchor this entire narrative of how am I going to share this with all of you today. And I'm really thankful for this opportunity. So I thought about, during this period of time, right, in COVID, there's a lot of loss happening around us in all sorts of ways. And if you've seen the news recently in Singapore, there was this lady who was in her late 50s or maybe 60s, where she recovered from COVID. But then a week later, she suffered some kind of relapse because her system was badly affected by the virus, and she just died suddenly, even though she recovered. And that got me thinking about what loss is about and how a family or families that have lost their loved ones deal with grief. And then I started to reflect on what grief is about and this whole process and its bigger cousin, depression. So by sharing my story with you, I hope that maybe you could have some kind of takeaway from some form of it, or rather, because loss can be come in any form. It can be a loss of freedom. We're all stuck at home. We can't really go out. So it can bring a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. People may go out and protest or whatever, you see in the US. And so this is my version of 5 stages of grief. Thank you. Thank you, Rasati. So they say that the experience of grief is like the dark night of the soul. Some psychologists or spiritual psychologists say that it is the dark night of the soul that haunts at the back of your mind. There's a tinge of sorrow and devastation, and then it comes in waves. You surf them through one and another, and then you unintentionally get hit by one, and then you fall down. If you've no surfing, you kind of go into this washing machine thing, and then you try and find the surface as quickly as possible with the help of the sunlight. You go up to the surface, and then the next thing you know, the next wave is coming towards you, and it crashes right into your face. And you go into that whole cycle again, and you come up, and then you try and get your breath, and that is what grief to me, my experience of grief has been for the past 10 years. So it was a day in May 2010, 10 years ago. I woke up from my bed sick, and I wasn't the kind of person that would usually be sick, but for some reason that day when I woke up, I was sick. And then I decided to take the day off from work. And then about 11 a.m., suddenly my door opened. I was lying on bed, and then my mom came in. She walked into the room, and then she asked me, "Aren't you going to work today?" Then I was like, "No, I'm just feeling bad. I'm taking MC today." And then I suddenly realized, isn't it 11 a.m.? Because usually she'd be at work at 7. She'd be out of the house by 7. And then she came over, she combed my hair, and then she said, "Okay, so you're going to rest?" Then like, "Yeah." And then I looked at her, and then she gave me this very, very warm smile that I can always vividly remember. And then she walked out of the room, and little did I know that would be the last time that I would see her. And the next time that I saw her will be inside the coffin. So I was the first one to receive the call from the police. And when I received the call, I did not want to believe that it was happening, because there were a lot of, she gave a lot of hints about, it was a second attempt. And then, and at the funeral, when because when the undertakers will move the body from one to another into the coffin, they will ask one last time to the loved ones, anyone would like to have a last look of the body before we nail the coffin. And I was the only one who raised my hand. And I walked over and I looked at her, and this entire realization of the years before, in which she said that she would jokingly say, I'm going to jump off, and then she would give me instructions. This is where you're going to find all this. This is where I find insurance documents. This is where I find this and find that. And then I realized at that moment, they say that the last time you see your loved one at that final moment is a timeless moment. And that is the moment when I saw it, that time was just stood still for me. And that's when I knew that it's all happening. And that's when the first stage of my denial started. So stage 1 of grief, denial and isolation. So when it happened, my entire family was in shock. And not a lot of people know this, but to be a survivor of a suicide, there is a lot of taboo around this, a lot of stigma, there's shock. The survivors of the suicide person, there's a lot of shame with it, there's a lot of guilt on top of the loss of the person. Not many people talk about it. And at the time when it happened, our family decided and agreed that we will tell everyone that what happened, when people ask us what happened, it's an accident. So everyone that came over, I just said that it was an accident, and I didn't want to say anything further than that. And nobody wanted to ask because they were trying to be sensitive about not asking further. And it was a very difficult time for all of us. It was only that when I start to think about the years before that she told me that if anything happens to me, I want you to scatter my ashes into the sea. And then I realized, and only at that moment where we went to the sea in Changi, off the coast, quite far away, after that scattering of the ashes into the sea, that I had that, it dawned into me, that acceptance. Finally, on the boat ride back to the coast from the finishing of the scattering, that I started to cry, because the entire funeral, I did not drop a single tear, because I knew that this is what she wanted. And I knew that she would want all of us to be strong. But the only realization I broke only at the final moment when the scattering of the ashes was done. And that started a long process of denial of my emotions. And that's, for some reason, from that moment, I told myself that I wasn't going to let this event stop me from doing what I want to do, because I knew that my mom left with the intention for us to live the best lives for us. And that's when I went straight into my career, to my own furthering education. I used it as a shield to just move forward in life, just power through, because she decided to leave, and we're all just left here to just go on with our lives. So I just told her, and I created that shield, and that was what created isolation on top of the story of an accident. So a great denial of my emotions, massive isolation of my true self. So I hid that true self of mine deep into the recesses of my psyche, and I didn't want to talk about it for several years. And that is when I went stage 2, escapism and anger. this is the start of a series of bad decisions in life. There are many ways to escape: alcohol, parties, relationships, travel, work and work and work and work. I just buried myself in work, got so stressed out with work, and then I would just go drinking and partying on the weekends like it was nobody's business. And I felt that I had a great life. And the funniest thing is that I felt such a like I was living my life because I was having a not bad, pretty good job, and I was having fun with my friends on the weekend. But it was actually a line of escapism. And the time when I started to have a slight realization of this happening was when this little voice in the back of my head, deep down, it was asking this question: what's the meaning of my life? I do this every day, every week. I live for the Fridays and the Saturdays every week. I get home drunk. I look at my life and I just ask myself, what is the meaning of all this? It's this profound sense of purposelessness, of loss, and it kind of projected me forward into this path of self-development. So that's where you have your Tony Robbins, Mind Valley, the whole movement about just being positive and all this and trying to be the best that you can. And little did I know that this entire quest of self-development, which took me several years to go through all these videos and reading all these books, was actually a path of, because I could not accept who I was. I could not accept the person that I am. So it was escaping from alcohol and parties to this path of self-development or personal development or whatever you would call it. And only when it took me an intense session of when in a room of 20 people, I stood in front of them and I realized that I actually hated myself. That was something that came out of my mouth that did not take any thought. It just came out subconsciously, that I hate myself. And I realized that deep down I was so angry at everything, so many things, so angry with the whole situation, the past, that I couldn't do anything to change the past. And the most I was most angry with was myself. And that is when I went to stage 3, bargaining. So bargaining is a process in which the mind starts to ask or go into this question: if only I was more sensitive, more mature, more capable, more wise, more intelligent, more successful, then she wouldn't wanted to have ended her life. And it brought me to the next level of trying to find out what could I have done, and all these scenarios and situations in my mind of what I could have done at the point of time, because then we didn't know. She had a very good way of not letting anyone know what she was going through. She kept everything to herself. And I just kept thinking, what could I have done? And then so it brought me to this pursuit of this organizations where you have people talking about depression. If you have these helplines, SOS Samaritans of Singapore. So I got myself involved in all these pursuits, and I realized that depression is actually very prevalent in Singapore. And people usually do not know how to approach such things. And that's when I got myself more into the understanding of what it is. And it took me several years, 2 years, to find out that to go in this process of making up for something of the past that already happened, basically trying to change the future, thinking of the ways to make up. It was a lot of making up. And that was the third stage, of which I call bargaining. Which brings me to the fourth stage, depression, or what I would call more towards myself, it's decompression. And this was the darkest night of my soul. The lowest, this is when I hit rock bottom, right at the pit of sadness. Of this sense of like everything just feeling meaningless, and I think it you just feel like there isn't any meaning to life at all already, and you just not want to go on anymore. And I think it gave me an empathy to people who experience depression, so it allowed me to process those feelings. I didn't want to give up, so I began talking to friends, sought friends for coaching, sought coaches, and delve more into spirituality, both online and offline. And unintentionally, I went into this journey of self-healing. And it is only when I went into this environment, into this space, it all began into this journey to Bali, where I was in this space of people of such a different way of looking at things, by using the power of the breath, by owning your breath, that I felt the ability to really go deep and allow the feeling of sadness to process itself through me, without my mind to tell me that it's all going to be okay, it's fine, it's not a big deal. I transcended the mind, and it went straight to the heart. And using the power of the breath, it allowed me to process all of it. And I felt this profound sadness emanating through my entire body at a cellular level. And it is when I've realized that I have kept so many things inside me, and my mind was such a powerful, powerful shield to protect me from all of that pain. And from releasing that pain, I experienced a certain change in my entire being, like feeling it in my blood, in my bones, in the heart, that somehow, somewhere within me, something had changed, and I'm not sure what. My mind could not comprehend it, but I knew deep down in my heart, something changed, and I have no idea what it was. But from that day, from that trip to Bali, which had just happened very recently end of last year, it changed my life. And from then on, that's when I realized I went to stage 5, acceptance. So here I am, 10 years from when it happened, from my mom's death. I'm walking the path towards acceptance. And I wouldn't say that I have achieved it to a maximum, to what it is to acceptance. But I look back to it, to my past, and I look at it with gratitude now. I don't look at it as something I can change, something that shouldn't have happened, something that I did not want to accept, but something that has brought me to this Zoom call right now with you guys willing to listen. And it is a deep, deep level of self-reflection. It is it is a path of self-healing. It is about owning your breath. It is about letting your breath in. And the breath is, they say that the breath is the channel towards your soul. And I cannot emphasize this any further to that the breath indeed it is, and I am practicing it myself every single day. And I anchor myself in this. And I just look at this entire COVID situation as a way of practicing it right now. And I can't say to you that this is the magic formula of grief. There could be 5 stages, there could be 7, there could be 10. It depends on you each. And I can't say that I might not slip back to bargaining or anger or sadness anytime. But I would say that the process of this entire movement of healing yourself is the antidote to which we can all help ourselves move forward to helping ourselves in this depression. I believe there is some form or another, and depression can hit anyone at any time. whether you are someone who is very successful or just, just doing what you need to do for everyday life, it is important, and it is my mission right now that I share with people that whatever that you're trying to find, that happiness that you're trying to find outside, that success that you're trying to find outside, that feeling of what you need is actually all here. And it is one level to just think about it, but it's another level altogether to feel it within your bones. And for some might be those of you who, if anyone is here struggling with depression, I'm not sure, or living with someone who might be, or possibly someone who doesn't show any symptoms, but someone who is doing depression, I would say that it is ultimately the choice of every individual to walk their own path, their own life, and you cannot force a horse to drink from the river. We cannot change them if they are unwilling, but we can show them that the possibility, or we can show ourselves the possibility that there is a way towards finding the inner wisdom within yourself and the path to self-healing. So my mom was the best in the family. Oh, she was the best of us. But I believe that she would forever live through me in every action I take in this world as a son, and in my memory, and every action that I take in this world. So I leave you guys in celebration of Mother's Day, because it's tomorrow anyway, with this poem about femininity, and this is how it goes. Through her pain, she found her light, even though it seemed out of sight. She whispered to a shadow, "You are here to help me grow." Her veins flooded with rivers of love. She is sent from heaven up above. She is the earth and the moon. Her frequency is a harmonic tune. Close your eyes and breathe in her energy, for she is the embodiment of divine femininity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prinsten. Very, very beautiful, moving story. And I am so grateful that you've chosen my platform to share your story. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing with us. And yeah, just to add to you guys that a couple of weeks ago, so I was supposed to have a conversation with Prinsten about his speech. So he asked me, how am I? And I want to be honest that I'm not okay. I do feel safe with you. I broke down in tears talking to him. I've got some of my close friends here with me today. None of you have heard me cry like that, but I did to Prinsten. You have this safe space that I trust you able to contain. And I thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Rihanna, for
not issue.
creating this space. I thank you for creating a space.
No, I'm serious. Like since I met you, like everyone is special to me here. Like everyone turned up today carries different weight within me, in me. A lot of amazing people. All of you are amazing. But I always like to give due credit. I just like to own up to what I am and what people are. And that's the truth. I think for what you've gone through, you understand, even though you didn't say much, but your energy, the safe space you gave me was more than enough. I'm better now, but I asked myself the next day, like, how on earth did I break down like that to this guy? Like, out of the blue. And I'm supposed to vet his story. Like, but yes, I think you do. I personally think you have that. For what you've gone through, you've become this person that's able to create space or some sort of a healing space for others. And I believe you will continue to furthermore in this path that you are already on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rihanna.
My pleasure.
You are very, very strong.
Thank you very
Know
much.
that.
Thank you. Thank you. Someday I will tell my story. So, okay. So, shall we go for a break? I don't know if Camille is around.
I feel like I need to get a glass of wine now. Thanks.
Yeah, go. We'll get a glass of wine. So
Me too. It's 9 a.m. in the UK.
hello, Dasha. Welcome.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Dasha. I didn't know you were here.
I was. I made it just in time to hear you. I'll be honest, I just screwed up time zones. For some reason, I thought 3 p.m. is 3 p.m., but it's actually 10 a.m. in Moscow. So I got a bit mixed up with different appointments, but I managed to get to hear Prinsten and Rihanna sharing, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for creating this and letting me listen into this.
Oh, my pleasure. Are you in Singapore?
No, I'm in Moscow.
Okay. Oh, welcome. Yeah, if you can be in touch if there's story you like to share in future. Be in touch with me and we can have chat.
Thank you.
I think this is the beauty about Zoom. We may have lost the actual space, but what it does now, we can connect to everyone. Now, I don't have to limit just in Singapore. Jodi is sharing her story from UK, and Dasha is joining us soon. Soon. She will be telling her story maybe, but I think it's just, I just think like this joy of being able to be connected, regardless of where we are, is something to be so grateful of. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Prinsten, for your very, very beautiful, moving story and for sharing with us. It's powerful. Thank you. So, Camille, if you are okay.
I don't know if I can sing after that. I've been bawling for the last 10 minutes. You are strong, like an oak tree standing tall, and you will bend before you fall, and you have empathy, you feel everything, you are kind. There's no greater gift in life. And if someone casts you aside, you have confidence. This is just a test. This world is worth living in, 'cause you are part of it, right in the heart of it. You give light to everything, and I wanna wanna be with you, walking beside you, and so you've got heart and soul, and it's everything. You're beautiful, despite televised trends. And this beauty is born within you. No one can take away the things you're here to say. This world is worth living in, 'cause you are part of it, right in the heart of it. You give light to everything, and I wanna be with you, walking beside you, and so you've got heart and soul, and it's everything. Soul got soul, you got heart and soul, you got everything, everything. But sometimes it feels like you just can't go on. You think that none understands you, baby. Well, you're this world is worth living in, 'cause you are part of it, right in the heart of it. You give light to everything, and I wanna be with you, walking beside you. This world is worth living in, 'cause you are part of it, right in the heart of it. You give light to everything, and I wanna be with you, walking beside you, and so you've got heart and soul, and it's everything. Soul got soul, you got heart and soul, you got everything. You've got soul, heart and soul, oh, it's everything. You've got soul, heart and soul, oh, it's everything, 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 everything. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Amazing. I've got my tissue if anybody wants. And yes, why? Would you like me to continue the story, or would you like to play one more song, Camille?
Do you want to get on to whoever wants to speak next? I can.
Maybe we do one story, one music, one story, so it's not as tense. Yeah. Okay. The next story is Jodi Johnston, Jodi Baxter. I remember you. You're married now, Jodi Johnston. So Jodi and me go way back since 2004, early 2004 in Dubai. And then we both used to be flight attendant. We did a flight to Malta. We spent 3 days there with me climbing on the balcony from one room to another room, people's room. That's what I did. I'm such a monkey, still a monkey. But from that day till now, so although we don't keep in touch all the time, but me and Jodi have always write to each other whenever, maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years, a point that we keep in touch. And I met her in London, and then we keep in touch in Dubai, things like that. Thing about Jodi, you honestly got this special energy. Like since I remember I know you when I was 25, I was amazed by there's something so genuine, so your energy is so calming, so it's just so pure. Like I'm serious, so pure. And till today, that's what you are. And yeah, and I'm very grateful to call you my friend. Yeah. So
Thank you.
yes, so let's give a big hand of applause for Jodi.
Thank you so much. That was really kind. Thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this platform. It's really great to see what it's all about. And my God, Prinsten, that was such a moving story. Thank you. I learned a lot from you. I'm glad I had a song to get myself composed after that. So anyway, a bit about me. I'm Jodi. I'm a recovering, I was going to say recovered people pleaser, but I think I'm always going to be a recovering people pleaser. And I used to live a life that was, I just felt very overwhelmed and lost all the time. And now I'm happy to say that I trust myself completely. And because of that, I feel a lot freer. So I'm just going to talk to you about how I've got to this stage, really. But I'm going to start with a statistic that really floored me a few years ago, and it kind of drives what I do now. So that statistic is that the number one regret of the dying is that I wish I'd had the courage to live a life that was true to me, not a life that others expected of me. And that was reported by an end-of-life care nurse who spent many years supporting people who were dying. And it just really floored me that so many people actually felt this way. And it was almost like having a mirror held up to me, because I knew that I was living that way myself. And also that I'd seen my parents living that way. And my mother still really struggles with a lot of regret for the decisions she's made in life. So this statistic inspires everything I do, really. So as a person, I've always been really excited about the possibilities of life. Yet for most of it, I've held back. And that's because I've always been so afraid of judgment, of other people's opinions, of keeping harmony, and just been stuck in being a people pleaser my whole life. So when I grew up, I learned what I saw around me was a lot of an inability to be open and honest with each other. So there was a lot of judgment, talking kind of behind people's backs, passive aggressive behaviour. And for me, I learned that to feel safe was to behave well, to be a good girl, to keep everybody happy, really. And so my focus has always been on everybody else, to a point that I'd actually realised in my adult life that I'd lost touch with who I was completely. I didn't trust my own judgment anymore. I didn't really know who I was, but I always had this knowing deep down that I wanted something different. And I felt guilty for that as well. I felt guilty for not being happy with the life I had. But yeah, I kept living this way until really my early 30s, where it got to a point I started working after Emirates, my Emirates fun times with Rihanna, started working in the corporate world for a few years because, again, it felt like a proper job, like the right thing to do from the outside looking in. I was never happy. And I became kind of so entangled with doing what I thought was right that I actually became really ill. So I suffered with a lot of health problems, which manifested and became too much in the end. So eventually my body took over. So I ended up with an eating disorder for a few years. I had anxiety, insomnia, and I ended up having panic attacks when I was in central London a few times, where it became really frightening, knowing that I couldn't really go out without this happening to me. And it ultimately ended my long-term relationship because I couldn't speak up for myself. I just didn't have a voice. I just didn't know how to have an opinion. I was so afraid of hurting people. So yes, eventually I was signed off twice from work with burnout, and I ignored the advice of the doctor because, again, I didn't want people at work to judge me as being weak. But that came to a point, and I was just like, there's just no getting around this. I have to face up to the fact that I can't live this way. So when it came to the breakdown of my relationship, I knew I had to take action, and I spent a good couple of years really slowly building my courage, working on my deep-rooted beliefs, and actually practically learning the skills needed to start pushing back. So I always knew that I should be saying no to a lot of people and prioritizing myself, but I didn't actually know practically how to do it without being consumed with guilt. So it was a slow path in completely changing my life, really. And now, because of that, I know that prioritizing my well-being and setting boundaries for myself and with others is absolutely crucial. It means that I can stay happy and healthy. Everybody wins that way as well. I wasn't much fun to be around when I was ill. I didn't realize how much I was worrying people when I was actually trying to keep everything afloat and thinking I was doing the right thing by trying to please everybody and burning myself out along the way. So I guess from my journey, there are 3 key messages I'd like to share with you about that have mattered to me about living authentically. So the first is that there's so much power in our bodies and minds when we give them what they need. So for me, what that looked like was I needed to start paying more attention to the signals that my body was giving me rather than pushing them away and ignoring them. So I needed to confront what I was feeling. I started to take a lot of yoga classes. I ended up training to be a yoga teacher. And I really learned what it was like to truly listen to your body and see that what it's telling you is just feedback and signals. And if you listen and give yourself the space to listen, then you can take practical action to address what's causing you discomfort. I also learned from that about the power of focusing the mind on one thing at a time, which is a very difficult thing to do in today's modern world where we're switched on 24/7. But actually, when we can take a little bit more control of our minds, it can really work in our favour. And I started to realise that joy and happiness for me came from discipline and balance, which I would have absolutely disagreed with a few years back. But actually, to bring a bit of discipline into my life actually freed me up. I realised that really, I'm 100% responsible. I've taken over the role that my parents had when I was a child, and the responsibility lies 100% with me now to take care of my needs and my own best interests. So not just reacting to what's an immediate quick fix, but thinking about what I actually need responsibly for the longer term. And the second thing is that setting clear boundaries with ourselves and others actually frees us up to spend time on the things we truly care about. And I think setting boundaries is just simply sometimes clear communication. So it's better communication skills. And I think if you're mired in self-doubt and self-judgment, then communicating clearly can be really difficult because you start to doubt yourself and that comes across. So we really need to address those things that we're saying to ourselves to be able to communicate clearly and start setting boundaries. So for me, this was the biggest thing for me. And it felt like such a huge deal to start suddenly pushing back with people because it was just my identity. It was who I was. It drove everything I did in life. But I started really, really small. I started to take my time to just pick one small thing to say no to every single day. Just start tiny, and get in the habit of actually not automatically responding to what everybody wanted. I'd rehearse conversations and prepare for the worst case scenario, and it was obviously never, ever as bad as I'd imagined in my head. But my self-confidence grew, and my trust in myself grew from these very small acts that built up over time. And I started to learn that those boundaries needed setting with myself as well as other people. So as mentioned, if I'm doing something unhealthy or unhelpful for myself, I needed to learn to say no to myself as well. And the biggest shock with all of that was that a lot of people actually thanked me for pushing back and admitted that, I wish I sometimes said no a little bit more, or you're right, like we shouldn't be doing this, we should try and save money. And it was just really interesting to see that actually lots of people are living in this way and just agreeing to what everybody asks of them. And then the third thing I wanted to share is about living authentically, is that I believe when we simplify and choose quality over quantity in all areas of life, that's where true happiness comes in, because your life is kind of curated for you. So for me, I started to really appreciate the everyday when I chose quality over quantity and started to really kind of take a bit of an audit of my life in general. So for me, like the more headspace I had, the more I respected myself, the more I took care of my environment, the people, my surroundings, everything started to feel better. Suddenly I wasn't craving those quick fix, kind of high adrenaline, short-lived moments of excitement, because I was content, like calm, happy and content with who I was in the day-to-day. And there's no better feeling than that. And how this translates to my life now, my partner and I managed to come back together after our breakup, and we got married. So me taking the time to work on myself and be able to stand up for what I believed in was what was needed for us to thrive. So we're happily married now. We both left London and the corporate world behind. We knew that we had to put our health first and our finances first. So we decided to leave that behind and travel for 6 months last year before moving to Yorkshire in the north. And now we're expecting a baby next month. So life is completely different. So you've got me this morning, which is good, before my baby brain kicks in the afternoon. So life has changed a lot, and it's all thanks to confronting my fear of judgment and my fear of pushing back with people, and disrupting harmony. And I'm just so much happier for it. And our relationship is so strong because of that. And now I've set up a business called The Power of Well. It offers events. I run events locally which blend yoga and practical kind of personal development discussions. And we have some online programs, and I work with people one-to-one to work together on these practical techniques that are usually needed to live a life that's true to you. And they've really shifted things for me. So it supports us on our path to fully honest and healthy living. And it blends the practical and the spiritual, because I think each have an important role to play. So just to kind of sum up, really, a few things that I believe now. One is that every decision we make is an investment in or an investment against the life that we truly want. And the choice is actually ours. I just needed to remind myself of that. Also that it's kinder to stay clear on our boundaries and to be truthful to other people, even if it feels difficult, rather than lead people down a path that you don't want to go down, which can end up just resulting in bad energy and resentment and more difficult conversations later down the line. Also, the importance of how we must discipline ourselves to feed our spirit first. As I said before, we take over the role of our parents or guardians when we become adults. And it's about thinking about what we need sometimes versus what we want in the immediate moment. And then finally, as Rihanna mentioned at the beginning, we have these layers and layers of social, family, cultural conditioning built upon us and it can't possibly change overnight. So I think starting small and staying consistent really makes lasting change, and that's a bit of a rebellion, I think, in modern life, where everything's a quick fix and an immediate fix. But actually, I think that's the way for us to see lasting change in our lives. So I just wanted to ask you to think about for yourself what one thing you could do for yourself today that your body and soul might need, that you might not usually give to yourself. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jodi. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
I do resonate a lot with your story, especially the part not having boundaries and people pleasing. Like, I don't know, especially the more I love you, the more I don't know how to say no. Like I bend backwards to give and give. And the universe keep on sending you all these people that's gonna take you for granted until you learn your lesson.
Yes, exactly.
He really sent me. So I learned a lot of that, and God knows I'm owning my voice, parts of me, whether I like it or not now, and I think all of us here now, believe on the importance of owning our breath. Yeah, strongly believe in that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jodi. All right. So, Jodi, you can share your Instagram handle or website on the chat.
Okay.
At the same time, if you guys want any more any information of anyone or of the speakers, it's on Instagram, The Eclectic Space, or on my Facebook page, rihanna.yusuf. Or just contact me personally. I'm happy to give any information. All right. Shall we? Camille, would you like to play a song, Camille? I seriously like your hair, Elle. I can't wait to take your picture.
Thanks. My husband actually hates it.
Well, just send him to me. In half an hour, I'll change. I brainwash him.
Okay, am I there? Well, Jodi, since you're expecting a baby, this is a song that I wrote when I was pregnant with our first child. And I was huge. And this is a song called Tiniest of Hearts. It's getting late now. I can't sleep for fear of losing hold of this vision in my mind. New beginnings bring out so many fears as you grow strong. Wait for me, wait for me. I know you're gonna be alright. I promise to be here to guide you. You've given me a brand new life. Tiniest of hearts beat strongest. I feel you stirring deep inside the soul. I never knew I was missing of it all. Your tiny hearts with eyes as old as fire. Thank God you found in and tell you, you've given me a lust for life, the tiniest of hearts beats strongest. When it feels like the whole world is out for you, don't be afraid to fall. And you're stuck in a corner, don't know what to do. I'll be here when you call me. And you feel like there's no one sticking up for you, no matter how it seems. In every way, you're perfect to me. So as I hold you, I feel you fall asleep. I see this beauty of life brings. I know you're gonna be alright. I promise to be here to guide you. You've given me a brand new life. Tiniest of hearts beats strongest. I know you're gonna be just fine. And you don't need me to stand and tell you, you've given me a lust for life, the tiniest of hearts, tiniest of hearts. Thank you. I'm trying not to think of all your stories. I'm like choking up while singing.
I know. It's like I'm literally thinking, actually, am I the only person getting very emotional here? Oh, okay, good. Okay. Okay, Rihanna, you're normal. That's all right. Yeah, if you guys don't mind, I am going to ask, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to ask Rasati to speak, to tell her story again after this, because I didn't record earlier. So please, I learned something new now. I learned something new now. So yes, thank God it's Rasati, because she's always ready to tell stories. Okay, once again, please give a big hand of applause to beautiful Rasati.
Okay. I kind of feel bad because I don't want you to have to sit through the same thing again, but I also feel like there's so much emotion based on everything that everyone said so far. Like, I really felt a lot as Prinsten was talking about grief and moving through the stages at his own pace, his own stages, whatever felt good to him. And it just happened kind of naturally. And for him to share that was just amazing. Thank you so much. And then Jodi, I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that, you know, your people pleasing recovery. I think a lot of us have been through that as well. So that's been amazing as well to hear. Congratulations on getting back with your partner, married and with a baby on the way. So happy Mother's Day to you. That was really amazing as well. So I'm sitting here trying to think of, how do I do this again, but maybe make it a little bit different so it's not like you're listening to the same thing over and over again. And something came to me. So for those of you who were here earlier, you already know that I've moved around a lot. I'm based in Singapore, but from Singapore, I went all around the world and came back again, from the UK to Australia to Indonesia and then the US, and then came all the way back home again. And throughout that entire process, it was a process of trying to figure out how to own my own breath. And with that being said, the first time I spoke, it was more about understanding that the belief systems that were handed to me by my parents were not concrete and they weren't supposed to last me the rest of my life. It was kind of like a guideline for me to start off. And then eventually, as I saw all of these people in all of these countries and all of these cultures, I learned to take in other people's perspectives. I learned to allow other people to tell me their stories and what they believed. And I kind of took the good and kind of got rid of the bad and whatever was holding me back, whatever was keeping me feeling like I couldn't achieve what I wanted to achieve because these are the rules and I can't pass these rules, right? And it's almost like an art form. Trying to own your breath is almost like an art form. I was always told when it comes to art, you learn what the rules are, you color within the lines and everything. And then eventually, as your art grows, as you become more bold and confident, you learn to artfully break those same rules. And I thought that was really, really evident in all of your stories as well as in mine. And so this time around, when I tell you my story, I kind of want to help you understand how I figured out to own my breath. Part of it is rooted in the grief of mourning what used to be normal. Part of it is rooted in how I also was raised to be a people pleaser, because it's, you know, it's better to be seen than it is to be heard. That's that mentality, that old school mentality, just do as you're told. And eventually what I learned was my feelings matter. And it's part of the reason why I'm an emotional intelligence coach. My feelings matter to the point that it's my soul talking to me. When I have a big emotion, when I have a feeling of helplessness and I feel depressed, like I don't have any other options at the moment, it is my soul telling me something about my life does not fit anymore. When I feel anger, when I feel offended by somebody, it's just telling me again that something about my life does not fit me. I am restricting myself. Being around certain people makes me feel like I can't speak the way I want to. So again, it was learning to own my breath, but in a way that felt a little more authentic to me. Jodi, I heard you say about the fact that you weren't sure if you could trust yourself. You learned to kind of ignore what you were telling yourself, what your feelings were telling you, and do what you could to please everyone around you. And eventually you felt like you lost yourself. I felt the same way too. And it wasn't until I started paying attention to all of the little triggers in my life that pointed back to old traumas, things that maybe I'd grown up with and forgotten that at some point I told myself, this is what I need to be in order to avoid any more pain. And in so doing that, I kind of limited myself, constantly just limiting myself. And I wasn't allowed to be who I really wanted to be. And nothing was more evident than my marriage. I have been estranged from my father most of my life. And the way I chose partners was to find someone who might be strong enough to take care of me. Not that I needed anyone to take care of me, but I needed someone who might be able to help me if I ever needed the help. And I met a man who happened to be a single father. And I thought, wow, this man is doing everything he possibly can to take care of his 2 kids, to make sure he had enough food to feed, you know, the family, even though it was a blended family at the time. And I thought, wow, okay, if he can do it, then he might be a great partner for me because I can do the same. We could help each other. And so we fell in love, and throughout the course of nature, we ended up getting married, and I raised these 2 kids in the same house. And as much as I wanted to say certain things or do certain things, I found that I was being limited a lot. I understood that he had been through past trauma. He has, at the time that I knew of, he had 2 kids by 2 different moms. I was his 3rd wife, and so he's been hurt a lot in his life, and I understood that. And me being a psych student, I was like, wow, okay, I understand. You telling me these things means, okay, I will keep them in the forefront of my mind, and I will try really hard not to trigger you or upset you. So when he would ask me things like, you know what, I don't like your friends. They seem to be controlling the way we have our relationship, and I don't think that they have your best interest at heart. I feel like they're taking you away from me. I felt like, okay, if that's triggering to you, I will adjust all of those things. And slowly but surely, I tried my very best to keep him feeling safe, to make sure that he understood where the priority of this relationship fell for me. And what ended up happening was I slowly cut my ties from the world. I slowly reduced who I was, and I stopped shining as brightly as I used to. And I didn't realize it until I had my own biological child. Yes, I'm a stepmom. I have 2 stepkids, and having my own child, though, changed everything. Suddenly, it mattered more to me how my child saw me than it did for me to worry about how the rest of the world saw me as a wife and a stepmom. Suddenly, I realized that I had to stop disappointing myself, and that's where the people-pleasing kind of slowed down. I had to choose my battles. Sometimes it was a matter of pleasing the other person so we wouldn't get into an argument. And sometimes it was a matter of, you know what? I'm not throwing my values out the window anymore. I'm not giving up my say in this relationship or in this parenting relationship in order for you to feel safe. If I feel something is wrong, I have to say something is wrong because there are kids at stake. There are kids who are depending on us. And it took me a long time to understand that seeing us fight was not good for the kids either. It didn't set up a good example of what the world could look like. It didn't set them on a path where they would understand that they were allowed to have a say in relationships because, let's face it, We don't do what we're told, we do what we see. And it maybe was the most difficult decision I've ever made, to break away from that family that I had created with my ex-husband and stepkids to create one of my own. It happened 7 years ago, and it was a great deal of mourning that I went through. I had to deal with a lot of I told you so's from my family. And what ended up happening, though, was I realized, hey, I don't have to ask permission to live my life the way I see fit. I don't have to check in with people to let them know that this is what I'm deciding to do if I think that's the best thing for me and my kid. And it took a lot of courage and a lot of fear, a lot of fear, because suddenly I was doing for myself instead of pleasing everybody else. And yeah, I might fail, but I won't know if it works or not unless I try it. So for me, owning your breath came all the way down to, what are my feelings telling me? Why do I feel what I feel? Where is this feeling coming from? And that made me dig way back into the recesses of my brain, looking at old memories, trying to understand, well, what told me this was wrong? When did that start? Who told me it was wrong? Is it still fitting today? So once again, that first speech where I told you that I had to upgrade all of my belief systems because they no longer worked for me, it still holds true. The things that kept me safe when I was 5 aren't going to keep me safe now at almost 40 years old. The things that kept me feeling like I was strong and able to do certain things aren't the same as they are going to be for me now, today. So as much as we are, it's easy for us, right? When our phone says we need to update a software system, we automatically update because we want the newest updates, we want the latest gear, right? But we don't do that for our belief systems. We don't always do that for the people we have around us. Absolutely. I have people I've known all my life, people that have been with me for 10, 15 years, people I grew up in school with. And for a time, they were meant to walk with me. I think our greatest fear is when we start to live authentically, we are afraid we're going to lose people. And that doesn't mean that we're bad people or that they're bad people. It just means that, you know what, I believe something a little bit different. And maybe that irritates you a little bit. And if we're going to constantly bicker about what I'm doing versus what you're doing, that's not going to help me, and it's definitely not going to help you. So for me to learn to upgrade my belief systems and understand that it was okay to believe what I believe if it made me feel empowered and strong, meant that, yeah, people were going to come and go. And I would mourn the people who left, and I would embrace the people who came, knowing full well that at some point they might leave as well. But the bottom line is, I'm allowed to evolve. I'm allowed to change my decisions if I realize that I tried something that didn't fit so well. I'm allowed to forgive myself for not knowing better at some point in time. And now I know better, so I know I would make a different decision. Either way, my feelings are going to tell me where I need healing, and my feelings are going to tell me where I'm not being myself. And that's the biggest lesson of all. My feelings are going to tell me exactly what I need. I hope that helps you guys.
Thank you so much, Rasapi. Thank you so much. I love you. Like you, I totally agree with your insight, very insightful. Thank you. I work a lot on emotions and feelings as well. A lot of my coaching goes through owning up every emotions. I'm a strong believer in that. Whenever emotions arise, then I don't dwell on it, but I acknowledge it. And then I ask, where is it coming from? Which part, from where, which part of my childhood, like all these things. And I think it's very, very crucial. And yeah, just like, and like this pandemic, for example, I feel like my life almost every day or every other week, I keep on uncovering new things, probably like you, like simply because I listen to my feelings, to my emotions so much. I'm so in tune to it. It's like, to me, is a blessing. Like every week, there's something new I discover that, oh, I need to work on this. Oh, this come from this. And my greatest one that I discovered this week is something of my childhood that I thought that I've healed or whatever. Then something triggered me. Then I realized that I actually became so good at coping it. So, and this is coming from me that I know that I thought I've worked on some things, but great discovery. Thank you, Rasati. Thank you so much. Okay, so where's Camille? Would you like to sing, Camille? One more. Yeah. So we're gonna have an interval because the story today are amazing. It's powerful. So I think moving from one story and one song is good so that we can sing in the story and think about it.
Okay. Am I here?
Yep.
Since you went away not so long ago, your mystery, haunted melody that I used to sing out loud, used to feel so tall. Now alone I stand and I feel a shadow casting down on me. You've gone away, standing where you used to be. You're somewhat of a mystery to me now. Far away, gone to stay. Everything that I ever knew was written in a song. It's funny how this life is so full of change. I never realized how I'd gone and changed inside till I put a record on that we used to say. Now the melodies, Lord, you just don't sing to me 'cause you're far away, standing where you used to be. Somewhat of a mystery to me now. You're far away, gone to stay. Everything that I ever knew is written in a song. By you, by you, by you, by you. Ooh, hey, by you, by you, by you, by you. I'm standing here where you used to be. I'm a song in need of harmony. Every tear that I ever cried, it turned into a everything that I ever knew is written in a song by you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have undepressing songs, but they, you know.
You know what? Like the story and the songs are all flowing together well. Because Camille usually play more pop, you know. But thank you for the spontaneous.
I'm trying to recover. After every story, I'm trying to recover. Then I get hit with an emotional song. And where's my chance to catch my breath?
I have a family barbecue starting shortly, and I have to go down and be really happy. So this is like going to be really tough.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jodi, you've been brilliant matching your story to mood song coming. Yes, Cameron's been amazing. Thank you, Jodi. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I've had, this is my number 11th event. Every event has got different energy. Every event is unique. Every is moving in its own right. My worry, and I have to say, the live event is so magical, right? I did have worry that this, and I'm good at one-to-one, one-to-one. I'm good at, I'm a people person. So I did have worry that maybe this Zoom is not going to be impactful. People might not feel so much. I am so wrong. I'll be honest with you. I have never felt so moved. All the event moved me, but because the event because I am the host, so I have to move around. I have never been more present than today. I have never been more moved than today. I've never gotten so much in one sitting. Please know I am truly, truly grateful. I don't know how to tell you guys. I love every one of you. Thank you. Yesterday, I moved from being anxious and nervous to trusting to what is. I get excited. And then I actually felt like, literally, and I truly feel it inside me. I can't wait to meet my family. When I wrote on the group chat, I said, I feel like I'm going to meet you guys tomorrow, like I feel I'm going to help you. And I truly mean that. I dress up, I blow my hair. I'm so lazy at blowing my hair. The last time I blow my hair was for Christian. Because he didn't have any hair. so I dress up today because I'm going to meet my family. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful that you guys are enjoying, benefiting of this platform. Thank you. Yes. All right.